On this week's 2-minute tip, why you should be burying your drip tape. So on our last 2-minute tip, we talked about some of the basics of drip tape and why it's better than other sources of irrigation like soaker hoses or overhead watering. And today we want to talk about why you should be burying that drip tape so that it's most effective for you. Reason number 1, water conservation. Studies have shown that by burying the drip tape, you'll use up to 40% less water than if you put that drip tape on top of the soil. And the reason for that is due to soil surface evaporation. So when that tape is on top of the soil, you're going to be losing a significant amount of water due to evaporation. Whereas when that tape is underneath the plant and buried, you're going to get a much more effective delivery of water. Reason number 2, buried drip tape stays in place. So if that tape's on top of the soil and it's not running, it's not filled with water, it can be blown around by the wind or moved around by animals or anything else. So by burying the drip tape, it always stays in the same place where we need it to be, right underneath the plants. Reason number 3, rodent damage. So if you have a problem with rats or other varmints on your homestead, those guys love to chew into that drip tape laying on top of the soil. Whereas if we bury the tape, it's not as accessible to them and we won't see near as much damage. Reason number 4, soil crusting. So just like when you get a heavy rain, that soil's going to crust over on top and make it hard to cultivate. If we put that drip tape on top of the soil, that's going to make that soil crust there as well. We put it underneath the soil, we don't get crusting, our soil stays nice and soft and easier to cultivate. Reason number 5, effective delivery of fertilizer. So when that drip tape is beneath the plant, down there by the plant roots, and we inject that water-soluble fertilizer into our drip system, it's going to be more readily available to the plant right there than if it was delivered on top of the soil. And finally, reason number 6, by burying the drip tape, it's easier to cultivate around our plants. If that tape's on the surface there, we're going to have to move the tape out of the way to cultivate those weeds that might grow up around the tape. However, if that tape is buried, we can use something like our single tine cultivator or another hand hoe and just skim the surface there and remove any of those new thread-like weeds that might appear. So instead of planting a row and then laying the tape on the soil beside it, bury the tape first, then plant on top of it, and you'll see much better results from your garden, and it'll be a lot easier to work in your garden throughout the growing season. I hope you enjoyed this week's 2-minute tip. We'll see you next week.